This video here, we're going to take a plain piece of driftwood and we're going to turn it into kind of a river rock scene. We all have, when you skin our fish out, if you do skin mounts, or even if you alter mammal mannequins or anything like that, you always have some chunks left over that are usually too little for anything else. But we're going to end up taking these and kind of turning them into rocks. So we have a bunch of little pieces. And we're just going to kind of do that. We'll shape them into river stone, so we'll make them nice and smooth. Then we'll attach them to a backing board. And we'll put a maché coat over them just to make them smooth. But the first thing we got to do is kind of shape them, make them look like a river stone. And when we're shaping them, we're just going to, first step, we're just going to take a knife and just kind of round them out. But we should just kind of have a nice round shape. If you were making rocks for a different type of base, you could leave them with the sharper edges. If you're using them for like a deer backing or something, or a pedestal on a deer, you could leave them like this shape. Just put the maché over them and get you that. But for the fish base, we want them to be pretty smooth. We should have a bunch of roughly shaped foam balls now. I'm just going to take my file, I'm just going to smooth them off just a little bit more. And they don't have to be perfect or anything, because we are going to cover these with the maché, but just kind of get them roughly pretty close to where you want them to be. At this point we have a bunch of foam rocks shaped out, and we're just going to kind of want to get a general idea where we're going to want to place them. So we'll just kind of get a rough layout of how we want them to lay. Our fish is going to attach to this point here. His head's going to be coming this way. So we want to kind of have more rocks out in front, just a couple in the back just to balance them off. And then once we get these rocks kind of arranged how we want them to be, I mean, they don't have to be exactly how we have them, but this is pretty close to how we're going to be. Just a piece of a board. We're going to kind of cut it to the shape here in the back. We're going to attach it to the driftwood on both sides. but that'll give us something for our rocks to actually attach to. We kind of have our backer board here, which is just an old piece of flooring actually that I used. And then we have our rocks. I just run a screw in each of them so that they can hold them there. And we'll end up just screwing through the back into our piece of driftwood. Is how we'll attach it. But right at this point, we're ready to go ahead and we're going to maché these rocks. And we're going to go ahead and create the scene that we need to create. I'm just going to take some maché and mix it up. Being that these are going to be river stones, you don't really want to use a rock mix that gets you a coarse look, because the river stones are obviously going to be smoother. We're just going to take that maché and cover these rocks up. Once we have them all shaped up, we're just going to take a wet sponge and we're just going to smooth these out and make them as smooth as possible. This will give us a little bit of texture, but it's going to help us to take any of the ridges out that otherwise take away from a good looking piece of river stone. Once you get them smoothed out, that'll give us a pretty close look. We're going to let this dry and then we'll recreate the rest of the scene here. Now once we have these dry, we're going to want to spray them with some sort of a sealer. We're going to want to spray them with some sort of a clear sealer. We just want to seal them off so that the water doesn't rehydrate that maché that we just did. So any clear spray pretty much will do the job here. And our next step, we're gonna put a little bit of a base color. I'm gonna take a black tempera paint. I'm just gonna water it down pretty good, and then I'm gonna kind of go over, and that'll kind of fill in the cracks that we have, and that'll kind of give us a little bit of a depth to build off of. We're just gonna take that black wash we mixed up and just kind of brush it on there. And you can take a paper towel and kind of take some of the high spots off, and that'll get you a fair amount of depth in the rock already. We're going to add some other colors on there, but we're basically going to do the black wash on all of these first. And after we get the black on there, kind of have the shade. Depending on the what you're trying to match here. You want to kind of add a couple different shades, kind of making each rock its own individual rock. You can add red tints, brown tints, just depending on what you're trying to match here. You kind of see our piece of driftwood is going to sit in there. You could attach it close to there and it'd be alright, but I'm going to add some little rocks. You kind of see where I left a little bit of panel. I want to put some glue down, and I'm just going to put some little rocks. That way we're attaching it where we want it to. I am going to go ahead and attach the piece of driftwood to it, so once I put these little rocks on, they're going to bring it all together and everything's going to be attached all at once. I don't have to worry about trying to get this to line up here later. Okay, now we just want to add some little rocks. You can get some real rocks. If you want to add real rock, like real little pebbles, dirt, you can get your own and do it that way. I'm going to be using some Scenes of Nature. They're light rock debris, and they have different it gives you a nice mix of pebbles. They give you some larger ones, some smaller ones. So, and they're a little lighter than real rocks, but that's what we're going to use on this one. Okay, the first thing we want to do is put a little bit of glue down. I mean, we have several options on what for glue you want to use. I'm just going to use like a hide paste. You probably want something that's a little bit thicker than like an Elmer's glue, but you could probably use an Elmer's glue if that's all you had. But I'm just going to take the hide paste and I'm just going to kind of brush it on wherever you'd want rocks to be. Put some of the rocks down into it. That's just going to help create a little bit of extra depth to it. Even when you get into the bag, there's some really fine dust, and that really does just help create a extra element of realism. The final steps would be to just seal it off. Basically what we're going to do is spray a watered down glue, and we're going to try to lock in all the little pebbles that we put in. With that glue we'll spray it over the rocks that we painted, and that should kind of lock everything together. So that's pretty much how we'll do this. That's pretty much all the steps to making a river scene. There's really not much to it. We're basically using scrap materials, a little maché, a little bit of backer board, and then it does create us a nice little river scene that we can add a little more depth than just a piece of driftwood to our fish mounts.